Feeling overwhelmed and stretched too thin? With work invading your home life and vice versa? It's time to reclaim control and restore balance. Imagine prioritizing yourself, mastering stress management, and finding a clear path through the chaos. I've crafted the perfect course to help you navigate burnout, reconnect with your core values, and regain a sense of peace. Are you ready for a fresh start? You can learn more about the Burnout Buster Blueprint at my website, leahlittlebrown.com. Let's turn this moment into your turning point. Welcome to Flourishing Flame, from burning out to burning bright with therapist and coach Leah Brown. Are you a people helper or caregiver, feeling overwhelmed, distant, cynical, and crispy around the edges? Join me to defeat burnout by learning how to manage stress and create deep connective relationships with others so that you can pursue your calling, providing light and warmth to those around you. Hello and welcome back to episode 41 of the Flourishing Flame podcast. I'm your host, Leah Brown. And going back and listening to last episode, I realized that I had very reserved energy that morning. And I actually recorded that podcast episode in the hotel early in the morning, the day after the Boldly conference. And I thought, well, you know what? That's kind of cool. Since I was talking about reserved personality types, I had a more reserved energy. I think after having several days to reflect on how amazing that conference was, I just really am encouraged and just rejuvenated to be able to continue helping people and to be able to support them well. So there might be a couple of you that were there that are listening today, and I just would be really excited and thrilled to have you send me a note, let me know what you thought about the Boldly Conference and the exciting things that they shared. So today I'm continuing to wrap up the last few episodes looking at our uniqueness and how we can be unified with others, even though we're not the same as other people. Like, we're all individuals, but we can still have unity and part from being accepting of other people, understanding their uniqueness, understanding their personality type that we talked about. We talked about the DISC assessment and the DISC model of human behavior, where we're looking at, is someone outgoing, or are they more reserved? Are they more task-oriented, or are they more people-oriented? And when you can have kind of those two questions in your mind, it helps you to understand what are the ways that you can interact with them that are great for them. So it builds into your unity and your relationship with that other person because you understand them and you treat them according to what makes sense to them. Another element besides personality is experiences. And experiences start from the moment that we come into this world, right? Do you have siblings? Where are you in your birth order? Do you come from a large family, a small family, a multi-generational family, a blended family? Are you adopted? Do you have adopted family members? Do you come from a religious community? Is your religious background integrated into a larger community, or is it more of a private experience? It goes to your schooling. Did you go to private school, public school? Were you homeschooled? How long did you go to school? Did you finish at high school? Did you go to college? Did you go beyond? All of those are part of what makes you unique. Outside of your family and education, there's also your experience and your cultural identity, your ethnicity, whatever it is that helps you see kind of who you are in the body that you're in. For some people, they feel it more, and some people feel it less. It's often part of our family culture and part of our family cultural identity. It can be a national cultural identity, and that can circle around patriotic holidays, or it can be around a social regional idea and experience. Well, so like Christmas is celebrated in the United States in different areas in different ways. Because if you're up in Vermont, then you might be dreaming of a white Christmas. Or If you are in Hawaii, you might be singing Mele Kaliki Maka. Very different cultural experiences around the same holiday. And that becomes part of your experience and your uniqueness as an individual. And then we go to the experiences that you have in your physical body. We can look at people like Johnny Erickson Tata, who became a paraplegic when she was a teenager and has lived decades in a wheelchair. She has a very different physical experience than those of us who are able to move our bodies at will. And then we have people like Amy Carmichael, who rescued children from orphanages in India. And when she was a little girl, she wanted to have blue eyes and prayed that God would give her blue eyes. And then as an adult, came to realize that the fact that she had brown eyes allowed her to stain her skin with coffee so that she had more of a tone that looked Indian, and was able to move freely in India and to get these young children who were being sold into slavery or were born in brothels, and was able to create homes for them, an orphanage for them. Maybe your physical experiences include hard things like sexual assault, or maybe your physical experiences are developed because you were a dancer or played sports and have a body awareness that allows you to experience the world in a very physical sense. And as we're talking about these hard experiences that people have experienced, whether it's a physical disability or chronic pain or a disabling injury, one of the things that is important to remember is that we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him, to those who are called according to his purposes. That's in Romans 8:28. So besides personality, experiences, we also have values. And your values come from you as a person, the things that are important to you. And values are the things that motivate you to do what you do, that motivate you to want to do what you do. And these can come from you personally, things like wanting to do things in an excellent way, wanting to have structure, wanting to have flexibility and wanting change, wanting to be in community, wanting to have private time so that you can be alone and regroup and refresh. All of those are part of our value system. And we generally have 5-ish, a little more, a little less, core values that really dictate how we see the world around us. So, for example, if someone has a core value of urgency, they're going to see the world very different from someone who likes quiet and solitude. And it's actually possible to have in yourself multiple values that don't necessarily seem like they integrate with each other well. And that's okay. Just understanding that there are times where you're going to have to choose to honor one value over another at that moment can actually reduce your stress load, just in knowing that, okay, I'm going to have to put to the side my need for doing everything efficiently, my desire to do everything efficiently, because I also value community. And right now, being efficient would not foster the community that I want. But then there will be times where it's like, I have those same needs for efficiency and community, but I'm going to excuse myself from the group because I have to get this thing done in a more efficient way than doing it with the group would allow in this moment. Being able to understand that and not having to put one to the side for the other in that moment, making it a decision that you're choosing instead of feeling squished into it, makes a huge difference. It also is the same with other people. When we understand that what is motivating to us might not be motivating to the other person. And so we can be able to kind of shift our understanding to appreciate the other person's values and to look at, especially if it's someone that you work with a lot, maybe it's a spouse or a child or a coworker, being able to understand what are their values so that when something comes up and it's a conflict point, you can pause in yourself and say, hey, is there a value of mine that's being stepped on? That's why I'm upset. Or is it a value of the other person that's being stepped on? Our values also can come out of our community, out of our families, out of our education, out of our cultural identity. Our values can come out of that as well. So being able to understand where does it come from and what are those things that are important to us can help us in interacting with other people. Because it also gives us ways that we can look with our personality, our experiences, our values, where are there places where we're similar, and we can capitalize on that to bring unity. And then where are there areas where we have differences that are complementary, and being able to capitalize on that, especially with personality and values, finding those things that we're not the strongest in, but we have someone else who is really strong in them. Let them carry that portion of the load to make the whole thing better. So when we look at all of these parts of our uniqueness, one thing I want to add is looking at capacity. Capacity is a maximum amount that something can contain, the amount that something can produce. And so as we're understanding capacity in relation to other people and their uniqueness, we can understand that if somebody has a great capacity and they have room is very different than if someone has a great or large capacity, but has no room. Being able to appreciate everyone else's capacity and not to assume that just because you can do 10 things and get them all done, that doesn't mean that everybody can. And the same that if you would feel overwhelmed with having 3 things, then you can't necessarily expect that someone else will feel that way as well. Or understand when someone doesn't appreciate your capacity because they're looking at their own. As we look at all of these pieces of our uniqueness, I want you to hear this quote from Buckminster Fuller. He said, "Never forget that you are one of a kind, and never forget that if there weren't any need for you and all your uniqueness to be on this earth, you wouldn't be here in the first place." So what do we do with understanding this uniqueness? It's an uncommon understanding. It's not something that is widely seen and heard and known in the world around us. We tend to be more tunnel visioned. And I get it. You're a people helper. This is something that is more common where you are. Just understand that there are other people that don't have the same understanding that you do, because in their uniqueness, they don't lean towards that same appreciation of working with others and serving others. It's just not as normal to them. So when we take this uncommon understanding and add to it clear communication, it can help us really move forward and define what it's like to work and serve other people. And so, I'm going to pause right here, and we'll actually wrap up this teaching that I did at the Boldly Conference next episode, where we'll look at what do we do now that we have this understanding of personality, understanding of values, understanding of experiences. What do we do with it to help us to build unity and to be unified in our uniqueness? Again, if you're at the Boldly Conference, please, please, please send me a note. You can send it through my website, leahlittlebrown.com. You can even contact me through whatever platform you're using to listen to this podcast. I really enjoy sharing this with people and just creating more unity in our world. There's so many places right now where there's a lack of unity, a lack of understanding that we're unique, and that all of our decisions are born out of our uniqueness. All of the things we love are born out of our uniqueness. And so until next time, take care. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode added kindling to your flame, please leave a review and pass it on to a friend who could use some encouragement. You can connect with me and find additional resources at leahlittlebrown.com. Now go forth and burn in all your brilliance.